Elliot Sanders wasn't the kind of person who believed in anything he couldn't explain. He was an environmental scientist, a numbers man, a man of reason. So, when his supervisor asked him to investigate strange readings in a small, remote lake in northern Minnesota, he didn't flinch. Just another job. The lake had no name, at least not on any official maps, but locals called it Devil's Kettle, though it wasn't the famous one. This lake was hidden behind dense pine trees, cut off by logging roads no longer maintained. It didn't appear in GPS systems and barely showed up on satellite imagery. Still, something about the place sent a ripple through Elliot the moment he arrived. The lake was unnaturally still. No fish jumped. No insects skimmed the surface. Even the air smelled wrong. Not like rot or pollution, but like emptiness, like something had drained the life from the water and left behind a husk that merely looked like a lake. Elliot set up his equipment on the first afternoon. Water pH readers, sonar sensors, a hydrophone to pick up underwater noise. It was routine until it wasn't. That first night in his tent, Elliot awoke at 2:37 a.m. to a sound unlike anything he'd ever heard. A low rumble, like a deep cello string vibrating underwater, mixed with faint rhythmic pulses, like a heartbeat. At first, he thought it was a bear. But when he stepped outside, the forest was silent. The sound came from the lake. He checked the hydrophone the next morning, expecting a faulty cable or random static. But the recording played clearly. A pattern, almost mechanical, almost alive. He analyzed it on his laptop, trying to find a matching frequency. It didn't correspond to any known fish, boat engine, or seismic activity. The sound had a rhythm, too deliberate, too intelligent. That day, the water temperature fluctuated by 12 degrees within a single hour, despite the surface showing no change. Something was happening beneath, something far deeper than the instruments could reach. Curious now, Elliot rented a small inflatable raft and paddled to the center. Dropping a weighted camera, he watched the video feed descend. First 10 feet, then 20, then 30. Murky but clear enough to see the silt below, until the feed went black, not static, just pitch black, as if the light itself had been swallowed. When he reeled the camera back up, the lens was shattered, not scratched, but crushed inward like something had closed its jaws around it. That night, the lake sounded louder, closer. And this time, there were voices, faint, distorted. He replayed the hydrophone's file and turned up the gain. A woman's voice, then a man's, both speaking too fast, overlapping, like a conversation played in reverse. But the words, he could almost make them out. "It sees," the woman said. "Don't let it wake," the man added, then static. Elliot tried to leave the next morning, but the truck wouldn't start. Battery was dead. Not drained, melted. Wires blackened, fuses popped. His phone screen had spiderweb cracks, though he hadn't dropped it. His compass spun in circles. No signal, no help, no way out. For the first time, Elliot felt real fear. The lake no longer looked still. It looked watchful. That night, the air felt heavier, and the sound was no longer a distant hum. It was inside the camp, reverberating through the ground, vibrating the tent poles. His laptop screen glitched violently, flashing unreadable symbols before freezing entirely. And then, just after midnight, he saw lights under the water. Not reflections, not bioluminescence. Lights in a geometric formation, rising slowly from the depths, like a submerged city beginning to stir. He backed away from the shore, shaking, unsure if he was awake or dreaming. That was when he heard footsteps. But not from behind him, from beneath him. Footsteps walking under the earth, slow and methodical, circling the lake in sync with the pulse of the sound. The ground trembled gently, not like an earthquake, more like breathing. The next day, Elliot found animal bones arranged in a circle outside his tent. Small ones, rabbits, squirrels. Each skull cracked perfectly in half, the insides removed. The circle faced the lake. When he tried to erase the hydrophone files, his computer refused. The delete button grayed out. The files began duplicating themselves, hundreds of them, all titled the same, Remember. He threw the laptop into the lake. It sank without a ripple. That afternoon he found an old wooden canoe hidden in the trees near the shore. Cracked and weathered, it looked untouched for decades. Inside was a journal. The entries were erratic, descriptions of dreams, headaches, a low hum in the bones. Drawings of spirals, black eyes, teeth. The final entry read, "It was never a lake. It was a lid.assistant, and it's starting to open." That night, Elliot didn't sleep. He sat by the fire, shotgun in hand, listening to the sound grow and swell until it filled his chest. Not just sound anymore, a presence. The lights returned, brighter now, flickering in patterns he couldn't look at for long. Every time he blinked, the forest looked different. Trees rearranged, shadows stretching upward. And then he saw himself, standing on the far side of the lake. Same clothes, same stance, but pale, eyes black and dripping, a twisted smile on his face. The double raised its hand and pointed to the water. The lake began to ripple, just slightly, the first movement it had made since he arrived. And then a crack opened in the center, a perfect circle, growing wider. Water poured inward like a drain. From beneath, a shape began to rise. Vast, smooth, unending, not a creature, a structure, no, a mouth. The lake was a pupil, and the thing beneath had begun to blink. Elliot ran. He doesn't remember how far. He only remembers falling, hitting his head, and waking up in a ranger's cabin 2 days later. The rescue team found him barefoot, bleeding, clothes torn. His truck was still dead, but the lake, gone, completely dry. Only mud and cracked rock where the water once was. No sonar reading, no signal, just silence. They told him it was a sinkhole. Natural, explained, measured, but Elliot knew better. The hydrophone recordings never stopped playing in his mind. The heartbeat, the whispering, the warning. He left the agency, moved south, doesn't go near lakes anymore. But sometimes in the middle of the night, he hears water dripping in the walls. He hears the pulse. And once, while passing a mirror in the dark, he swore he saw a flicker of lights behind his own eyes, moving in perfect geometric formation, waiting to rise again